Hey guys, welcome to GuitarMessenger.com. I'm here hanging out with Michael Keene of the Faceless. I want to talk a little bit about your recording and production process.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you guys with the Faceless and also some of your other productions there for some of the tightest guitar tones ever. So I'm wondering, like, how much of it is within the tone and the playing, and how much editing goes into it as well. You know?
Well, in terms of Faceless stuff, the more material I record, the less and less I try to edit.
Sure.
Because I feel like you can hear it, and I just try to get like better performances. I've definitely gotten a lot better at dialing in like clear tones, and I mean, I guess it's all relative, but tone, as you know, is obviously so much from your hands.
For sure. Yeah.
And you can definitely hear from player to player, someone who has good tone in their hands, someone who doesn't. So it's definitely something I've focused on a lot as a player, being a recording engineer and actually being able to analyze my playing in that way that a lot of players don't have at their disposal, to sit there and look at the waveforms that their hands create, and look where they tend to lie on a grid, in their groove and stuff, and actually improve my playing based upon that, and kind of adjust my technique to the process of recording. Even like I said, my writing process is so much intertwined with recording. I feel like even my practicing process has become intertwined with recording, So just seeing the sessions and then going, okay, this is what I need to work on, so and I don't know, I've learned a lot of tricks, I guess. I always DI everything first and then go back and fine tones and whatever, and I felt like that's actually been really important, so.
Do you, if you have to edit, do you do any editing before you reamp? Like, do you
Yeah,
edit?
always.
Okay, and
yeah.
What about EQ or any compression while you're still in the DI, dealing with the DI sound?
I tried to just give a virgin signal, and then that's it. I tried to just print guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and any editing that I do, I'll make sure to do it all pre-reamp. So that, the finalized, track is going into the amp, and then that's what's printing.
Once you have your tones reamped, do you do any more cleaning up afterwards, to get rid of some of the amp sound that comes back from the recording? Or?
Yeah, occasionally. It's actually kind of cool to leave it sometimes, though, because it kind of gives it that natural feel or whatever. And sometimes when you put it through an amp again, little things will come back that you thought were taken care of or whatever. Like even if you clip, a file or whatever, sometimes it'll come back with a little hand noise or a little click or something or whatever. Sometimes I'll leave that stuff,
Yeah.
It gives it more of a natural feel.
I feel like as far as clarity of tone, the first thing that people might reach for is just turning down the gain a little bit.
Right.
What are some, if you can share any other tricks to get some clarity? Because especially on the opening track of Atheism and going through the album, you have some of these really dense chords that you're picking through, but you can hear every note pop out. It's something I really enjoyed.
Right. Well, like you said, turning down the gain. I always kind of tend to play with a like a cleaner signal generally. Then I always try to not go overboard with saturation. Try and keep the tones pretty dry. Another big thing is mids, man. A lot of people are afraid to really give the
Crank
mids hell, but it's like guitar is a mid-range instrument. That's where its voice sits, So if you crank up the mids, that's going to help a lot. And it's just I don't know. I mean, just finding that sparkly spot, whatever. There's a lot of tricks. I tend to go for punchier tones, things that kind of lack the tube sag or whatever. That tube tube gushiness or whatever that, which also in turn kind of gives you a scooped mid effect a bit. So I usually kind of go for the faster attack, more mid-range dominant kind of tones.
How hard are you picking to get the notes pop out?
It's funny, there's always this two schools of whatever. I find myself adjusting all the time from part to part. I'm digging in harder or softer from part to part, or even intermittently within a part or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not afraid to give it hell occasionally. I'd say I'd probably lay into it a fair amount, but like for speed picking, for instance, I am barely even touching the strings.
Really?
Yeah, it's like it's all on the wrist, and it's like I feel like the lighter you play, the clearer your transients are, the clearer every note's articulation is.
Interesting.
So yeah, and so the faster I go, the lighter I'm picking.
What kind of amps do you typically go for? I mean, you were talking about in the digital realm, but you're still modeling some kind of real world tube amps most of the time.
Yeah,
So what are some things you reach for?
I always kind of go for like the Marshall sounds, that
Okay.
like kind of, I don't know. I find myself like more and more steering clear of like the heads that are just like this massive wall of sound, and going for like that more traditional Marshall sound where it's a little bit tighter, more controlled, maybe a little bit brighter, punchier, that kind of thing, Yeah, I've been using Waves GTR a bunch, and I'm getting pretty cool results out of that. That's what I used on the new record, and then also there's some cool free stuff out there too. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Lepo or something like that.
Cool.
Makes some really cool preamps that there's like one or two in particular that I really like a lot. So that stuff's all cool in terms of the digital plug-in realm,
Yeah.
And then in terms of real amps, I still use my Randall V2 a lot. I like that head a lot. Sounds really cool. It's got like the solid state power amp punch, but it's got like a nice tube tone in the preamp, which is cool. The EVH 5150 is really, really an awesome
Any
amp,
particular
so-
one?
The three.
The three. Okay, the
EVH,
white one. Yeah.
Right.
Right on, man.
Yeah. So
That thing's crushing.
yeah, I like those kind of. I always just go for like the more mid-range dominant amps.
I guess at the end of the day, it's a less CQ that you have to do
Yeah.
because that's where it's gonna sit in the mix
Right.
more or less anyway, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. Actually, I try. This is actually part of the reason why I've become so stubborn about reamping and picking the tones at the end. Is that I try to not put any EQ on the guitar channels in a session, because I feel like I can always hear the EQ on the strip. And it bugs me. I don't know. I feel like the second you put an EQ on a distorted guitar track, you're just immediately degrading the sound. It's not getting it any better, really. So I always just try and get the tone going in right. So.
Do you find yourself high passing at all? Get rid of actually high and low passing?
Maybe going in, but I try to just leave it at that.
Going in, you mean?
Like I'll get it that way. Like the
Did you
signal
get
printing.
the DI that way, or get
or
the
on
reamp
the,
that
on
way?
the on the board too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
But generally speaking, I don't even really do that.
And what's your signal chain like for most of your recording? It's
For guitar?
yeah.
Well, I go just DI into my board. I have a Tascam DM3200, which then just converts into my interface, and that's what I print. That's the only thing I print. And then from there, anything after that, there's all kinds of stuff. But generally speaking, when I'm actually tracking, that's it. It's just the DI signal. I get as clean of a DI signal as I can off of the board, which it's a pretty transparent sound, and I've got good converters and stuff, so it prints well, and then from there.
And what about the DAW? What are you using?
I use Digital Performer, which is not one of the more common ones, but I've been using it for almost 15 years now. So
I feel like that one's a little more common in film scoring.
It is,
right?
yeah. It's real common in TV and stuff, and but it does everything. And actually, what's funny is that there's a lot of things that it did first. I hear people that use Cubase or Pro Tools raving about some new feature, and I'm like, Digital Performance had that for like 3 versions now. So, but yeah, I like it a lot. It's cool.
What's something you've never been asked before in an interview?
I don't know. I wouldn't even be able to think of it probably. I don't know. You've asked me a lot of things in this interview I've never been asked before, so that's cool.
I'm trying.
I can tell you a lot of things I have been asked before.
Okay,
that's for sure. Yeah. So how's the tour going?
Well, you got to start off with that one.
Right. Or I don't know. There's just like a million stock questions that kind of like. All right. So how's the tour going? Good.
Moving on. All right, so how about the flip side of that? What's something you've never mentioned before in an interview? Could be anything. Could be a story, an experience you had. I find this always gets some interesting responses. Could be anything.
I don't know. I mean, I would think that anything I haven't mentioned in an interview is probably deliberate. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
What are you listening to?
What am I listening to? I'm listening to all kinds of stuff all the time. But I mean,
I think I found it pretty common over the last few years, especially metal musicians or touring metal musicians say they don't listen to a lot of metal.
I definitely don't. I definitely almost never listen to metal.
Because I guess you get your daily fix on tour.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, if I want to listen to like guitar music, I'm gonna put on, I don't know, probably like Alan Holdsworth or like, maybe like Ricky Skaggs or something, or I don't know, something not metal, whatever. But honestly, I like listening to really simple music. I like listening to like pop style
Alan
music.
Holdsworth doesn't fall into that
Well,
category.
yeah, no, not at all, obviously. But I like listening to. I mean, some of my favorite stuff is. I mean, I don't know if it's not necessarily simple music, but it's kind of pop-esque, whatever. Things like Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers, Michael McDonald, Toto, Pages, whatever, stuff like that. Or I'm a big fan of industrial as well. I like a lot of industrial stuff. Everything from I don't know, like Nitzer Ebb, 90s era Killing Joke, to like the more popular stuff like Nine Inch Nails and all that kind of stuff.
You've been at many different points of the industry, back when your band was starting out, getting local attention, getting signed to Sumerian, re-signing, being the first band to re-sign at this point. So what's some advice you can give to young upcoming musicians in bands who are looking to make the mark in the industry?
Well, the industry is changing dramatically right now, but as it currently stands, the model is still sort of in place. But I would say one of the major things that has changed is that, record labels, they're in the business of selling records. They're not in the business of selling local bands playing live shows. The best thing that you can do for yourself is get yourself a good recording, because that's what labels are looking for. They're looking to know that they have, a product that they can sell. Right. So if you give them a sample of the potential product, that's going to do you a lot better than trying to get out on the road and do it grassroots or whatever. I mean, that's like, I think, a way more sensible approach in this day and age.
It seems that a lot of young bands are trying to get out on the road as fast as they can, whether or not the road is, whether or not there's a good deal for them to go on the road on the table.
Right.
Do you think that's a good thing for them to go out and do it anyway, just to start getting
in?
I mean,
if that's what you want to do, if you're just looking to have a good time, sure. It's not going to really do much for your band, I don't think, unless, at least not in this realm, not in the metal realm, I mean, I feel like maybe like punk bands or something could still do that, but that's a different thing altogether. If you are looking to develop some sort of long-term career and be in a band that actually, you can like potentially treat as a job, and make a career out of it, then start with a recording. I think that's the most important thing at this point.
Right on. Michael Keene, Faceless, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure.